welcome back to another episode of Asset Coach and Tax Strategist. It's been a while since I've talked about China, I think this is appropriate because Trump and his administration are visiting China and having these conversations, and now all of a sudden, some of the truth and some of the conversation about China is starting to come out a little bit more. And one of the things, I've said before in previous episodes is that China needs us, right? And the more we have backed away from the relationship of China, the more we have backed away from this engagement. Part of why this trip to China is probably going to be fairly productive in the sense that China needs more of the U.S., just like the rest of the world. We're a group of consumers where we've built this capitalism system that creates flow of cash throughout the system, and every country needs it. So backing away from the dollar, and you're weaponizing the dollar, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, well, create a system that matches or is better than ours, and I guarantee you the world will use it. But that's not the case. So over 250 years, we, America, have been building a system that has allowed the world to be wealthier, to allow the world to have global economics, global economies, and be able to create systems. Sure. Are we self-serving and we get some benefit with cheaper product or product that, I should say more appropriately, product that costs less for us? Absolutely. But it also funds and feeds those individuals as well. Wow, that blah, blah, blah. Enough. If you don't like it, leave America, go to those countries that you think are being taken advantage of. Then go see the difference. Go see what really is happening. But let's talk about this massive debt that China has, right? We keep hearing about this debt the U.S. has and the debt. Oh my goodness, debt. There's so many interest, billions of interest we're paid a day on our debt, blah, blah, blah. By the way, we've done videos on this too. It's like 80% of the U.S. debt is internal investments, whether it's agencies or you and I as investors, right? So this interest that we're paying as taxpayers in the government, most of it's coming to us internally, right? But that being aside, let's talk about China's massive debt. They're exceeding 300% of GDP. By the mid-2026. This is driven by decades of state-led investments, not privately or publicly led like the U.S. has. State-led investments in infrastructure, property market crash that has occurred, and high borrowing by local governments to fund growth. So what ends up happening in this world is that in the China is that their local governments will borrow money to fund, and they create this kind of like fake funding and growth. Well, you can only do that. You can't borrow your way to wealth, is what they say, right? Technically, you can, right? As long as that wealth has a free flow of cash back. In China, it doesn't have a free flow of cash back, right? So local government financing, what's that mean? These are cities and provinces that created thousands of off-balance sheet vehicles to borrow money for building roads or bridges or parks, and they hit economic growth targets. And when they hit economic growth targets, they receive a benefit. So they create this fake world to get a real world. And these entities are now owe an estimated 40 to 50% of the national GDP. Local governments are what's driving this breakdown, but these are governments. State or local governments, still government. That's the problem, okay? Now, let's look at the property sector collapse that occurred. So for years, the local governments have been funding themselves, and by doing this, they've sell land to property developers, and as the property developers, the market is collapsing because the vital revenue stream basically evaporated, just disappeared. Why? Because there was no demand. You cannot have supply without demand, and demand has to create supply. If you have more supply than demand or less demand than supply, what happens? There's a crumbling. There's a crumbling. How about this infrastructure investment focus? Well, the government has they historically favored investment-led growth over consumer spending. Okay. Well, what we encourage in the U.S. Local consumer spending, right? We want consumers to spend. But if you have government spending more than consumer, what happens? The teeter-totter gets flipped. Then you end up having an issue. Okay. Keep going on and on. State-owned banks that continuously roll over loans to unprofitable firms. They call it zombie firms, where these unprofitable firms try to keep afloat, causing debt to pile up without an economic return. You can't do this. Now, this is not happening to the U.S. It's significant. Why? Because we're consumer driven, right? We have a marketplace that creates this, and we've built out the system economically and internationally to where we have these economics to where other countries rely on us, and having the dollar to be able to utilize and energy and all these different things, right? The key here is that we create stuff to buy stuff to consume, right? And then when we consume, people get an idea to create stuff to make it easier to consume things, to make our life easier. Think about it. 250 years this country's been in. Did we have electricity? Did we have cars? Did we have airplanes? Did we have computers? Did we have oil that came out of pumps for the cars that we drive? You get the idea. We can walk in our house, flip a switch, and have electricity everywhere. We can go turn on a thermostat and have a temperature-controlled environment. We can go into our kitchen, open up a cabinet that is a refrigerator, and have food in there. And if we don't have food in there, where do we get to go? We get to go into the garage, go into our car, drive our car to the grocery store, go walk in the grocery store, go grab our food, and come back home and fill up that box cabinet with food. That all happened in the last 250 years. Why? Because of us. Because of America. So we've developed the system that is really hard to duplicate, but it can be improved upon. It can be enhanced. It can be used, but the problem with China is what? State ran. It's communist. It's not capitalistic. It's communist. There's control. And when you have that overbearing control, what happens? Well, you're going to crumble. You're going to crumble. Sure, the society has lasted longer than the United States. Yeah. But somehow, during their length of time, they have not always been a world power. It has changed hands. It has changed hands. And whether you go to a king or queen or to communism, what is the difference? What is the difference? I don't know. So just find it interesting. But again, you know, people still believe China's going to outpace the U.S. and is going to be the world power, blah, 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 blah. I don't see it happening. That's just me. Little old Bob, my opinion. What's that worth? I don't care. I get to look in the mirror and know who I am and understand what my opinion is and kind of play that game, so to speak. But I mean, if you agree with me, give me a thumbs up. Leave a comment. Tell me that you agree with me. If you disagree with me, leave a thumbs up and tell me why you disagree with me. And if you haven't subscribed, subscribe. Share this video with your friends, family, and colleagues. But until then, make it a great day. Bye-bye.